The 2011 general elections were the second under Uganda's multi-party dispensation. Overall, the polls were unremarkable, with most events unfolding from monetization of politics, militarization of the elections, the loop-sided use of the power of incumbency and state machinery, among others. Merely an extension of what was witnessed in 1996, 2001 and 2006, except in breadth. The 2011 general elections pitted President Museveni, who polled 68% to secure a fourth term, against Dr. Kizza Besigye, who garnered 26%. Notably, it was the first time that the incumbent was winning massively in nearly all regions, including in northern Uganda, where he was rejected resoundingly. Other contenders were Norbert Mao, now the Justice Minister, UPC's Olara Otunu, Betty Kamya, now the Inspector General of Government eyeing a second term in office, Abed Wanika, now a Member of Parliament under the Democratic Front, Samuel Walter Lubega Mukaku, and Bidandi Sali.
One Uganda, one people.
Dissatisfied with the 2011 and 2006 election results ruling, Besigye did not appeal the 2011 results despite alleged mass irregularities. Rather, he kicked off the political protests dubbed Walk to Work, which paralyzed Kampala and other towns for March of 2011. The protesters even at one point clashed with the convoys of heads of state flocking in to witness Museveni's May 12th inauguration, which cost 3 billion shillings. The protests came on the back of spiraling inflation, a spike in fuel price, and tough living conditions. The newly elected government, on the other hand, quickly viewed these protests as a challenge to its power and took on a belligerent stance of crushing them at whatsoever cost. The brute crushing of the protests, including a harsh clampdown on media covering these events, further dented Museveni's human rights record, so much that later the government had to hire lobbyists in foreign capitals to launder its image. It had emerged earlier in 2011 that the government was short of cash, including reserves, after Museveni raided the treasury and forked out $740 million, or shillings 1.7 trillion at the time, to buy fighter jets and other military hardware. However, if there is one lesson that the government learned from the 2011 experience, it is to keep the prevailing economic conditions in check in the run-up to the next elections. The 2011 parliamentary polls were fiercely contested, largely between Museveni's ruling National Resistance Movement, which secured 279 seats, and Besigye's Opposition Forum for Democratic Change, which remained the largest opposition party until 2021. FDC secured 34 seats, DP 11, UPC 9, and Conservative Party 1. Fast forward 5 years to February 18, 2016, Uganda once again went to the polls for presidential and parliamentary elections. Over 10.3 million voters cast ballots across 28,000 polling stations. Museveni was announced winner with 60.75%, while Besigye improved his share to 35.37%, facing off against 7 other contenders, including former Prime Minister Patrick Amama Mbabazi and other notable figures such as Abed Wanika, the late General Benon Biraro, Venantius Baramureba, Maureen Kalia, and Elton Mabilizi. The run-up to the elections saw Uganda's first-ever presidential debate attended by all candidates, including President Museveni, on February 13, 2016, which many saw as a small victory for democracy, even as the incumbent was seeking a fifth term. The campaigns were marked by the avoidance of the hitherto witnessed spectra of violence. However, several international election observers stopped short of saying the polls were not free and fair, and noted with concern a number of shortcomings on polling day, such as, prominently, the brazen conduct of security outfits. The European Union Election Observation Mission said, and I quote, "The voter enthusiasm for the democratic process was eclipsed by an atmosphere of intimidation, and even concluded that the Electoral Commission lacks the requisite independence and transparency." End of quote. On the other hand, the Commonwealth Election Observation Mission, led by former Nigerian strongman General Olusegun Obasanjo, said, and I quote, "As much as there was a lack of a level electoral playing field, an increased prevalence of money in politics, alleged misuse of state resources, inequitable media coverage, and question marks hovered over the EC's competence." End of quote. Primary level, NRM secured 294 seats, FDC 36, UPC 6, DP 15, alongside 66 independents. Then, the country leaped into the most bloodiest election in history, the 2020-2021 general elections. David Ijo, NTV.